Usually when we talk about getting a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of absolute precision, right? Like you go in, you say your arm hurts, and they don't just guess.
Right, they take an X-ray.
Exactly. They take the X-ray, and right there on the black and white film is that jagged white line. The doctor points to it, and you have this completely undeniable binary answer: broken or not broken.
It's clean, it's categorized, and honestly, it's deeply comforting. We humans love it when our progress our problems are entirely visible.
Yeah, we really do. But then you step into the world of adult learning. Specifically, imagine you were trying to learn a new language, like English, while you're also trying to, balance a full-time career, managing a household, and maybe keeping a couple of kids alive and happy.
Which is a lot.
It's a massive amount. And suddenly, that beautiful, precise X-ray machine is just completely shattered. We are thrust into this landscape of progress that is entirely murky.
Because you can't just slide your brain into a scanner at the end of the week.
Exactly. You can't have a technician say, yes, look right there. Your fluency has grown by exactly 12%, right next to your new vocabulary. It's entirely invisible, it's messy, and most days it just feels like you are walking up a steep hill in pitch darkness.
Just hoping you're going in the right direction, which is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters.
Muddy waters, yes. And the psychological toll of that invisible progress is immense, particularly for parents who are already suffering from massive decision fatigue.
Right. You are pouring all this energy into this linguistic void. And because you don't get an immediate, tangible reward,
Right.
like a healed bone or a paycheck, your brain just starts to question the validity of the effort itself.
And if you are listening to this right now, especially if you're that busy parent frantically trying to find just 5 minutes of peace between the chaos of the morning alarm and the exhaustion of the bedtime routine, welcome. We see you.
We absolutely see you.
Today, our mission for this deep dive is to completely redesign the architecture of your day. We are building a conceptual, step-by-step, entirely printable daily habit tracker based on absolute non-negotiable actions.
Because we want to take you from that suffocating feeling of morning overwhelm to a place of quiet, grounded evening reflection.
And we want to do it completely guilt-free.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our source material today is built around a highly motivational English learning and habit-building framework.
It's explicitly designed for adults who feel completely stuck.
Right. And the most beautiful part of these sources, it throws the whole, what do we call it, grind culture out the window.
Yeah.
Today isn't about working harder.
It's about working smarter with small, almost painfully boring, but highly sustainable actions.
Painfully boring is the key here.
What's fascinating here is the core philosophy that emerges from these notes. We have this culturally ingrained, almost toxic idea of what success looks like. We picture the highlight reel.
Oh, totally. The montage.
Right, the montage. But the reality presented in our sources, this actual science of behavioral change, is that true success, especially in something as neurologically demanding as language acquisition, is not a grand event.
It is quiet. It is invisible.
Exactly.
And to understand how to capture that quiet success, we have to start at the absolute most fragile point of the day, which is the morning alarm.
Oh, the dread.
The absolute drama of the morning alarm. Our sources show an incredibly relatable anecdote about a guy named Jake. So Jake's alarm rings at 6:30 a.m. He opens his eyes, looks at the clock, and immediately, out loud to the empty room, he declares, "Nope, I quit today."
A very dramatic opening act for a Tuesday.
Right. And he commits to the bit. He drags himself out of bed. He goes to make coffee. And the machine takes maybe 2 seconds longer than usual to brew. Just 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
And his immediate internal reaction is, that's it, I quit coffee.
Gradually.
Then he takes a sip, realizes he desperately needs it, and decides to unquit coffee. He leaves his house, walks to the bus stop, and the bus is slightly late.
Let me guess. He quits the bus.
He quits the bus. His brain instantly says, fine, I quit the bus. I'll just live at this bus stop now. He is threatening to quit his entire life over the smallest, most insignificant micro-inconveniences.
We've all been Jake.
We have absolutely all been Jake. But I have to ask, why? Why do we let a slightly slow coffee machine or a bus that is 2 minutes late completely derail our motivation to do something we actually care about, like studying English?
Well, the psychology behind this traumatic morning brain is entirely tied to cognitive load and sleep inertia.
Sleep inertia, that sounds heavy.
It is.
When you first wake up, your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for logical thinking, long-term planning, and emotional regulation, is essentially still booting up.
Like an old computer.
Exactly like an old computer. Your cognitive load capacity is at absolute zero. You're transitioning from a state of complete paralyzed rest to the intense, complex demands of modern reality.
So when that coffee machine is slow,
Your brain doesn't see a minor delay. It interprets that friction as a massive, insurmountable threat to your already depleted energy reserves. We label this the quitter's mindset, but it is genuinely just a biological defense mechanism against overwhelm.
wow. I always picture my morning brain as this overly dramatic teenager slamming doors, but the idea that it's literally an energy preservation tactic makes so much more sense.
It is entirely protective.
Uh-huh.
But the sources highlight a crucial caveat here. We don't actually quit.
Right. Jake didn't set up a tent and live at the bus stop.
Exactly. He eventually got on the bus. We just talk like we want to quit. The danger isn't that we will abandon society. The danger is that we allow these negative, dramatic moods to cloud the entire morning.
Completely draining the motivation we need to start new tasks.
Right. To combat this, the sources emphasize a technique of cognitive behavioral interruption. They call it snapping out of it.
Snapping out of it, like literally.
Mentally, yes. When that negative morning voice starts complaining about the coffee, you have to recognize it for what it is, just biological static noise, and consciously change the internal narrative. You have to literally say to yourself, I recognize this frustration, but I am moving forward anyway.
Which brings us perfectly to the first tangible block of the printable daily tracker we are building for you. We need a way to snap out of that morning static and build momentum without adding a single ounce of extra stress.
Because extra stress in the morning is a guaranteed failure point.
Absolutely. So the sources suggest focusing on 3 specific, gentle morning activities. And the genius here is that these are things you are already doing.
Right. We aren't adding a study hour to your to-do list.
No study hour. We are just changing the environment of your existing routine. So box number 1 on your morning checklist, brushing your teeth. You have to do it anyway.
Unless you're really quitting everything.
Fair point. But assuming you're brushing your teeth, instead of standing in front of the mirror mentally agonizing over the 50 emails you have to answer for your boss, this becomes a built-in moment to listen.
You pop in one earbud and listen to 2 minutes of an English podcast.
Exactly. Box number 2. Making breakfast or coffee. Instead of getting frustrated that the toast is taking too long, this is your moment to practice patience. Let the English audio play in the background while the water boils.
It's just background exposure. Very low stakes.
Very low stakes. And box number 3, the commute. Whether you are sitting on a bus, a train, or gripping the steering wheel in traffic, this is a transitional space. It is the ultimate environment for soft learning.
What we are examining here is the neurological mechanics of habit stacking.
Habit stacking. I love that term.
It is a highly effective behavioral psychology technique that relies on the basal ganglia. That's the part of your brain that stores automatic routines, things you do without thinking, like brushing your teeth.
So if you are a busy parent, telling yourself to find a spare, uninterrupted hour to sit at a perfectly clean desk with a grammar workbook
Is a complete fantasy. It sets you up for failure. Habit stacking bypasses the need for massive willpower. You take a habit that is already hardwired into the basal ganglia, like the morning coffee, and you layer a new, fragile habit on top of it, like listening to an English audio clip.
Because the coffee routine is already automatic, it requires very little energy.
Precisely. It provides a safe, low-friction anchor for the new learning behavior.
I love how that entirely defangs the feeling of overwhelm. You tick off those 3 boxes on your tracker teeth, coffee, commute, and you've suddenly accumulated maybe 20 minutes of English exposure before you even sit down at your desk for work.
You didn't have to negotiate with your dramatic morning brain to carve out extra time. You just hijacked the time that was already there.
And this methodology forces a profound shift in how we perceive our own progress, right?
Yeah.
Because when you rely on habit stacking, the effort feels minimal.
It feels almost too easy.
Which perfectly transitions into a concept the sources hit incredibly hard: the need to completely redefine what success actually looks like. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Let's hear it.
If you ask 100 people to visualize success, 99 of them are going to conjure up the exact same Hollywood movie montage. Big stadium lights, people giving a standing ovation, holding a giant trophy, or suddenly speaking flawless English in a high-stakes corporate boardroom.
We are heavily conditioned to crave the big, dramatic milestone.
Because they feel so good.
They provide a massive rush of dopamine. We are culturally addicted to the sudden reveal, the dramatic before and after photo.
But the sources reveal a truth that is somewhat sobering, but ultimately deeply liberating. True success, particularly in adult education, is not a montage. It is incredibly quiet.
It's profoundly boring.
It's just you sitting at your kitchen table at 6 a.m. in your bathrobe, pressing play on an audio file while the rest of the house is asleep, and absolutely nobody is clapping for you.
No.
The sources share this brilliant story of a specific language student to illustrate this. She wasn't the fastest learner, she wasn't the star pupil acing every grammar quiz, but she had one defining characteristic that separated her from everyone else.
She was relentless.
Relentless. And the definition of relentless in this context is vital.
It doesn't mean she studied 10 hours a day. It means she simply refused to break the chain of action.
Exactly. For 30 consecutive days, she sent her teacher a 30-second voice note in English. 30 seconds.
Just 30 seconds.
Some days she was exhausted from work. Some days her kids had kept her up all night. Some days her pronunciation was an absolute mess, but she still hit the record button. Now the sources contrast her with what they call the half-hearted dreamers.
Ah, the half-hearted dreamers.
These are the students who begin their language journey with massive, explosive enthusiasm. They send their teachers these grand declarations. I am going to study for 1 hour every single day. I am going to read entire novels in English. I am going to change my life.
We all recognize that initial burst of motivation. It's what psychologists call the planning fallacy.
The planning fallacy.
Yeah, we get a massive dopamine hit just from planning the new life, from making the promise. But making the promise requires absolutely no actual friction.
And because it requires no friction, it completely falls apart the second reality hits. After 1 week, their effort becomes entirely half-hearted. They drop to maybe 20 or 30% investment.
They only study when they feel perfectly rested.
Or when they have a totally free afternoon, which for a working parent is a statistical impossibility. But let's look back at the relentless student. What happened to her after those 30 days of 30-second voice notes?
Well, she didn't suddenly sound like a native speaker, I assume.
No, she wasn't standing on a TED Talk stage. But her voice had fundamentally changed. It was grounded. She still made mistakes, but she was no longer paralyzed by the terror of making them.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of longevity and learning, we uncover the crucial difference between the enthusiastic dreamer and the relentless practitioner. It all comes down to their internal framework for processing failure.
That's so.
The half-hearted student promises an hour, fails to do it on day 3 because their kid got sick, and their brain immediately categorizes that failure as a permanent character flaw. The internal monologue becomes, I missed a day, I am inherently lazy, I am a failure, I might as well quit entirely.
It spirals so fast.
It really does. But the relentless student views past failures merely as temporary setbacks. Missing a grammar structure or stumbling over a word isn't an indictment of their soul, it's just a rock in the shoe.
A rock in the shoe. I like that.
Viewing failure as a temporary data point rather than a permanent identity is the absolute bedrock of resilience.
It reminds me of the analogy the sources use about running a 5-kilometer race, which perfectly mirrors a student looking up at a massive goal, like passing a C1 advanced English exam.
Right, when you stand at the bottom of that goal and look up, it doesn't look like a path.
It looks like an impossible, sheer cliff face, an impenetrable wall. Your brain tells you, I have to jump from 0 to 5 kilometers today.
Which is mathematically, physically, and neurologically impossible. You cannot bridge that gap in a single leap.
But a smart coach steps in and completely changes your perspective. The coach tells you, the mountain is not one giant, solid rock. The mountain is made of millions of tiny, insignificant pebbles.
So you don't run 5 kilometers today.
No, you run for exactly 5 minutes today. Tomorrow, maybe you run for 7 minutes, next week, 10.
What that coach is doing is helping you practice the art of reframing discomfort. You are replacing the crippling feeling of massive failure with a hyper-focus on microscopic, consistent improvement.
And that reframes the whole experience.
Exactly. The discomfort you feel when running for 5 minutes isn't a sign that you are failing at running 5 kilometers. It is a necessary biological sign of personal growth. The muscles are tearing so they can rebuild.
So when you redefine personal success as this quiet, almost invisible daily persistence rather than the big, visible milestone of crossing the finish line, you completely remove the paralyzing pressure.
You aren't climbing the mountain before breakfast anymore. You're just picking up today's tiny rock.
Today's tiny rock. That is the perfect visual anchor for the actual architecture of this daily tracker we are building. Knowing we need quiet progress is great in theory, but we need to know exactly what goes into the physical boxes we're going to tick off with a pen.
Right. Practical application.
Yes. And to figure that out, we have to establish a foundational rule for the tracker, the concept of the non-negotiable.
The term non-negotiable is arguably the most powerful tool in behavioral design.
How would you define it from a psychological standpoint?
A non-negotiable is an action that is entirely immune to your emotional state. You don't negotiate it with yourself, you don't alter it, and you certainly don't cancel it because it's raining or because your boss yelled at you or because you feel uninspired. It is an automatic baseline requirement.
Like brushing your teeth again.
Exactly. You do not wake up, sit on the edge of your bed, and hold a mental boardroom meeting debating the pros and cons of dental hygiene for that specific Tuesday. You just do it.
It's just a law of your universe. And for absolute beginners in language learning, treating a tiny action as a non-negotiable is the secret to building unstoppable momentum without the pressure of a massive study session.
But it has to be small.
It has to be ridiculously small. Your brain should feel silly trying to say no to it. The sources outline 3 brilliant examples of this for absolute beginners to gain momentum without feeling pressured. Example 1. Reading exactly 1 page in English.
Just 1 page, not a chapter.
Not an entire chapter.
Yeah.
Not committing to finishing a novel by the end of the month. 1 single page.
Reading 1 page takes perhaps 2 minutes. Even the most exhausted brain can process a 2-minute commitment.
Exactly. Example 2. Writing exactly 2 sentences about your day in a journal before bed.
Just 2 sentences.
And example 3. Recording a 20-second voice note on your phone. These are tiny, unglamorous, boring, sustainable actions.
And their boring nature is precisely their magic. They are sustainable. Any human being, regardless of how chaotic their schedule is, can find 20 seconds to speak into their phone.
Okay, but I have to push back here.
Go ahead.
I know exactly what our listeners are thinking because I have fallen into this trap myself. I have historically created the most relentless, beautiful, color-coded, hyper-organized Excel planners you have ever seen.
Oh, the Excel planner.
I had checkboxes, I had timelines, I had specific fonts for different moods. The plan was flawless. And yet my execution was completely half-hearted. I still self-sabotaged. I still sat on the couch and did nothing. If the plan is so simple, why do we actively destroy our own progress?
Because a beautiful Excel spreadsheet does not override human neurobiology.
It doesn't.
Sadly, no. If we connect this to the bigger picture of our daily routines, we hit upon a phenomenon the sources accurately diagnose as the work-phone-sleep rut.
The work-phone sleep rut. That sounds bleak.
People exist in a state of purgatory. They sit on the fence, they desperately want to improve, they complain loudly to their friends about not improving, but they don't actually take the steps.
A busy parent might claim they want to learn English, but then they spend 3 unbroken hours doom scrolling on social media every single evening.
The reason is simple. The brain is an energy conservation machine that deeply craves the known comfort of the rut. Real linguistic growth requires the brain to build new neural pathways, which consumes a massive amount of metabolic energy.
So learning literally drains physical energy.
Exactly. So when the moment arrives to do the difficult thing, even if it's just a 20-second voice note, the brain floods your system with resistance. It says, no, the sofa is a known variable. The phone provides instant dopamine. Stay here. It's safe.
The work-phone sleep rut. You wake up exhausted, go to work, come home drained, stare at a glowing rectangle for 3 hours to numb the exhaustion, go to sleep, and repeat the cycle until you retire. It's terrifying.
It is entirely insidious. You fall into this rut and you self-sabotage because you are biologically hardwired to avoid the temporary discomfort of effort. The only way to shatter the rut is by committing to those small, boring actions, completely divorced from how you feel about them.
You have to remove the emotional decision-making process entirely.
Completely.
But removing that emotional barrier requires us to completely change the internal narrative, which leads us to a critical pivot point in our tracker, flipping the script and reframing discomfort.
This is essential.
If we are going to escape the dopamine loop of the work-phone sleep rut, we have to address the sheer embarrassment of being a beginner as an adult. The sources use this hilarious and incredibly evocative analogy to describe this discomfort.
I think I know which one you mean.
Imagine you are 50 or 50 years old, you've never worked out, and you decide to join a high-end gym. Stepping into that environment for the first time feels like an impossible uphill battle.
It really does.
You walk in, the music is blasting, everyone around you looks like a Marvel superhero lifting massive amounts of steel, and you are standing there in an old t-shirt feeling like, well, a cute potato.
A cute potato.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful visual because it captures that specific blend of feeling entirely unequipped, awkward, out of place, and slightly ridiculous.
Right. It's like, to build on that, the adult ego is basically a heavily armored vehicle. By the time we are in our 30s or 40s, we have built this massive armor of competence. We know how to do our jobs. We know how to raise our kids. We know how to navigate our native culture.
We're safe inside the tank.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Trying to speak English in public for the first time requires you to step out of that heavily armored vehicle and walk across a very fragile, very public bridge, entirely
The
naked.
vulnerability is intense.
Your face gets hot, your heart rate spikes, your palms sweat, and your brain is screaming, "Get back in the tank, say nothing, just nod and run away."
That is the acute physiological response of the ego trying to protect you from the perceived threat of looking foolish. Your brain literally treats social embarrassment with the same adrenaline response as a physical predator.
Wow, like a tiger is chasing you just because you forgot a verb.
Exactly.
But the sources present a moment that cuts through all of that armor, a specific wake-up call that I think will resonate deeply with the parents listening to this.
This is a powerful part of the source material.
Imagine your 10-year-old child comes up to you, holding their English homework. They look up at you and ask for help explaining a concept. You look at the paper, and the realization washes over you that you cannot help them.
You just don't know the answer.
There is a very specific, quiet sadness in that moment. It's a profound wake-up call. It hurts to realize you can't be the resource your child needs, but that pain is actually a gift because it creates an undeniable friction that forces you to face the reality of your stagnation.
It shatters the complacency of the rut. And this is the precise moment where we must explicitly explain how to replace those self-sabotaging thoughts with more supportive, motivating narratives.
Because you could just spiral right there.
Easily. When that wake-up call hits and you feel that deep discomfort, you have a binary choice. You can let the shame push you deeper into the rut, you hand the homework back and go look at your phone, or you can use the friction to flip the script.
So on a practical level, when we look at our daily habit tracker, how do we mechanically flip that script?
You have to actively, consciously rewrite the internal dialogue you've been running on autopilot. The old self-sabotaging script usually sounds something like, "I'm too old to learn a new language," or "I always quit things anyway, this is just my personality."
You hear that all the time?
You do. You have to catch that thought and override it. The new script becomes, "I am an adult. I bring decades of life experience and resilience to this. I might start incredibly small, but I still start."
Or if your old script is, "I hate speaking English, people are judging my accent, it's too hard," what becomes the new script?
The new script becomes, "Speaking English is difficult, and my face might turn red, but I am not running away this time."
I am not running away this time. Just saying that out loud shifts your posture. It's moving from being a victim of the language to taking absolute ownership of the process.
Precisely. And this cognitive shift is how viewing discomfort as growth helps build long-term resilience.
Yeah.
You have to internalize the reality that personal growth does not feel like wrapping yourself in a warm, fuzzy blanket.
It definitely doesn't.
Real growth feels like stepping into a freezing cold shower. It is shocking, it takes your breath away, and your immediate desperate instinct is to jump out. But you have to hold your ground and embrace the internal mantra the sources provide. Uncomfortable now, stronger later.
Uncomfortable now, stronger later.
You take that initial discomfort, the hot face, the racing heart, the feeling of being a cute potato, and you reframe it. You tell yourself, this awful feeling is a necessary sign of personal growth. This is what stretching the neural muscle feels like.
Uncomfortable now, stronger later. That needs to be written in permanent marker at the very top of your printable daily tracker.
Okay, we've navigated the morning overwhelm, established our tiny non-negotiables, and learned how to step out of the armored tank of our ego.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. Now, let's pivot and look at how actual vocabulary from the sources can act as psychological anchors throughout the day. I was looking at the word tour section of the source material, and it strikes me how perfectly these specific English words describe the emotional journey we are mapping out.
It's a great tool. We can use this as a daily exercise to help listeners find hidden wins during those boring or routine tasks by actively labeling their experiences in English. Exactly. By attaching the target language directly to the psychological framework of the tracker, the vocabulary ceases to be abstract and becomes deeply personal. Let's run through a real-world scenario.
Let's do it.
Imagine it's 7:00 p.m., the house is a mess, the kids are screaming, work was a total disaster, and you are exhausted. You look at your tracker and you see your goal, writing 2 sentences in English. Your brain is begging you to skip it.
Screaming at you to skip it.
But you sit down, you pick up the pen, and you write them anyway. What are the words we use to label that specific victory?
The words there are relentless and non-negotiable. In that chaotic moment, you embodied being relentless. You continued despite the intense friction. And you proved that the action was a true non-negotiable.
You didn't allow the screaming kids or the exhaustion to open a negotiation.
Exactly. You executed the baseline rule.
Now, imagine an alternate reality. Same messy house, same exhaustion. You look at the tracker, sigh, and say, I'll just study for 2 hours on Saturday to make up for it. You walk away, sit on the couch, and start scrolling on your phone, feeling vaguely guilty the entire time.
That is the embodiment of being half-hearted and sitting on the fence. The effort is half-hearted because the commitment was conditional on feeling good.
And you are on the fence because you aren't fully quitting, but you aren't fully trying either.
Right. You are stuck in the agonizing limbo of indecision, just hoping the language will magically absorb into your brain without effort.
Which is the exact rut we are breaking out of. Now let's go back to the gym analogy, or standing in front of a barista trying to order coffee in English. You open your mouth, you completely forget the word for milk, your face flushes, and the cute potato panic sets in. The brain says, run. What is the vocabulary for how we handle that?
The required actions are to snap out of it and push through. You must actively snap out of the panic spiral by recognizing it as just an ego response. And then you push through the acute discomfort, finishing the sentence even if the grammar is entirely broken. Refusing to let the panic dictate your behavior.
Refusing to let the panic win. Building on that, if we don't snap out of it, if we continuously let the negative self-talk win and stay stuck in the work-phone sleep cycle, what is the ultimate consequence?
The inevitable results are burnout and falling into a spiral.
Burnout and spiral.
Burnout is the profound systemic exhaustion that comes not from working too hard, but from the chronic stress of unmet potential. And the spiral is the cognitive trap, where one missed day leads to a cascade of negative thoughts. I missed a day, I'm a failure, I'll never learn, which just pulls you deeper into the rut.
We are building this tracker specifically to prevent the spiral. Finally, what is the quiet, almost invisible success we achieve when we actually do the tiny, boring work every day, like the person who pressed play on this deep dive today?
That is when you finally turn a corner and prove that you can show up. Turning a corner implies that you have navigated the hardest part of the dark hill, and while you are still climbing, the path is finally making sense. And showing up is the ultimate metric of success.
It means you are physically and mentally present for your own life, which I want to explicitly point out to our listeners. As the sources state, you have already done this today.
Just by pressing play.
Just by listening to this discussion right now, even if you are hiding in your car in the driveway to get 10 minutes of peace before going inside to make dinner, you have successfully shown up. You refuse to abandon your own growth today. That is a massive, tangible, hidden win.
It is the very definition of quiet progress. And recognizing those hidden wins is essential as we transition into the final phase of the day.
Let's follow that narrative arc into the evening. The chaos of the day is settling down. But here is the problem. The modern adult brain is absolutely fried by 8:00 p.m. From the second we woke up, we have been bombarded. Phone notifications, urgent work emails, rolling news alerts, social media algorithms designed to completely hijack our attention.
It is a relentless, suffocating stream of digital noise. The cognitive load we carry in the evening is staggering.
The brain has been processing external demands for 15 hours straight.
Easily 15 hours.
So to combat this, the sources integrate a crucial and, quite frankly, incredibly challenging step for the evening routine. The 10-minute silent walk.
The silent walk?
If you cannot leave the house because the kids are asleep, the alternative is sitting quietly by a window for 10 minutes. But the rules here are brutally strict. No phone, no music, no audiobooks, not even this deep dive. Absolutely zero external input.
Yeah.
Complete, uncomfortable silence.
This raises an important question. Why is 10 minutes of silence so critical, yet so terrifying for the modern adult?
Why is it?
It is terrifying because silence forces a confrontation with cognitive dissonance. When you remove the distractions, your default mode network takes over. and your real internal voice returns.
It's not your boss demanding a report.
It's not the internet telling you what to be outraged about. It is your own authentic voice. And the reason we avoid it is that, in the silence, that voice starts asking very hard, very direct, guiding questions about the trajectory of your life.
You have to include this 10-minute silent reflection exercise specifically to help find your personal voice, because that voice holds your actual motivation. To formalize this deeply psychological process onto our printable daily tracker, we are going to add a list of specific journal prompts pulled directly from the source material.
Prompts for growth.
Yes. After you survive your 10 minutes of silence, you sit down with a physical pen and paper and you use these prompts to reflect on your growth after each day. Prompt number 1. If I continue living exactly like this for the next 5 years, will I be happy?
Wow. That is an incredibly confronting question.
It really is.
It strips away the illusion that things will eventually slow down and forces you to extrapolate your current daily habits into a long-term reality.
Prompt number 2. Why did I stop doing the things that used to make me feel alive? And prompt number 3. What is one microscopic change my future self will actually thank me for?
These prompts are precision instruments. They are designed to cut through the noise of the daily grind and reconnect you with your foundational why. They help you discover the deep, internal motivation required to willingly subject yourself to the discomfort of learning a complex language in adulthood.
And right beneath those heavy, existential journal prompts on your daily checklist is the final, anchoring task of the day, the evening check-in. The psychological goal here is beautifully simple.
I love the evening check-in.
Before you turn off the light, you must identify exactly one small win from your day. Just one. Maybe you finally understood a phrasal verb. Maybe you read that single page of English. Or maybe, on a truly terrible day, your only win is that you were slow, you were exhausted, and you were confused, but you didn't quit entirely.
You didn't stop walking.
You write down that one small win, you check the box, and you go to sleep.
The neurobiology behind this is fascinating. Human brains have a strong negativity bias and recency bias.
Recency bias. Like we remember what just happened.
Exactly. We tend to go to bed ruminating on the one conversation we messed up, or the emails we didn't send. By forcing yourself to write down one small win, you artificially hack the recency bias.
You end the day on a note of undeniable, documented progress.
Which completely short-circuits the tendency to spiral into anxiety before sleep.
Which brings us to the final structural piece of our entire system. We've mapped out the day, but we need to zoom out. We are transitioning from the daily checklist to the weekly planner and tracking small wins. If the daily tracker is the microscope, the weekly planner is the telescope. We need to build a summary table for the end of the week.
The weekly planner is the canvas where the magic of compound interest finally becomes visible to the naked eye. We highly recommend adding a specific, dedicated section to track exactly 3 small wins for weekly reflection.
I found that specific number interesting in the sources. Why exactly 3 small wins? Why not just review the whole week generally?
Because a general review invites the negativity bias back in. If you were asked to find just one win for the week, you'll pick the most obvious, flashing milestone and ignore the rest.
You'll just look for the montage moment.
Right. Forcing yourself to identify 3 specific wins makes you actively hunt for the hidden victories. It forces a comprehensive review of your daily trackers, making you realize that even during a chaotic week where everything felt like it was falling apart, you still managed to execute non-negotiable progress.
So imagine it's Sunday evening, the house is finally quiet. You sit down with a cup of tea and your summary table. You look back at your 7 daily checklists. Beyond just finding the 3 wins, what exactly are we looking for when we review this data?
You are looking to identify patterns in your own behavioral data. You are acting as a scientist studying your own life.
Like finding the friction points.
Exactly. For instance, you might notice a pattern. I consistently failed to do my 20-second voice note on Wednesday and Thursday evenings. Why? You dig into the data and realize you work late on those days, meaning your cognitive load is too depleted by the evening.
So what do? Call yourself lazy?
No. The solution isn't to call yourself lazy. The solution is to adapt the system. You move the voice note to Wednesday morning instead.
That makes sense.
By reviewing this summary table, you identify personal growth patterns and friction points. You begin to literally see the architecture of the mountain you're building. You see the undeniable evidence that your temporary failures on a Wednesday were just setbacks, not the end of the entire journey.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? It means we have successfully dismantled the toxic, Hollywood version of massive overnight success.
We have redefined success as quiet, stubborn persistence rather than big, visible milestones.
You are no longer measuring your worth against the superhero at the gym or the native speaker in the boardroom. You are only measuring yourself against the check marks on your own piece of paper.
And the ultimate takeaway is that you only truly fail when you stop picking up the tiny rocks entirely.
Exactly. The tracker ceases to be a list of chores and becomes a mirror accurately reflecting your own growing resilience. As we close out this deep dive, I want to offer some final encouragement, specifically to the busy parents listening right now, perhaps driving home in traffic or folding laundry while the kids sleep. The narrative of your life is just a notebook. You do not have to keep writing the same frustrated, exhausted story just because you've been writing it that way for the last 10 years.
You possess the agency to turn the page at any given moment.
You can write a brand new script for yourself, and the beautiful truth is that this new script doesn't start with a massive, dramatic declaration. It starts with a very small, incredibly boring first sentence.
And we want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over as you transition back into your day. We have spent this time giving you the psychological and structural blueprint for a bulletproof, non-negotiable daily tracker. We have shown you the mechanisms behind the fact that your future English fluency and your future resilience are built entirely out of tiny, unglamorous, beautiful actions.
It all comes down to the small things.
So the moment this audio ends, we have a challenge for you. What is the 20-second voice note you are going to record right now to prove to yourself that your new script has officially begun?
Think deeply about that. You do not need a perfectly clear binary X-ray to prove you are making progress. You don't need a miraculous break in the muddy waters. You just need to take the next 20-second step. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for committing to the quiet work. Remember, you are the captain of your life, not a passenger. We'll see you next time.